You wrote The Crow, right?
Yeah.
And that was way in early. I mean, I think The Crow, Batman, Blade, I think your movies and those movies helped to launch the comic book industry in Hollywood.
The only movie that they ever compared The Crow to was Batman.
I think tonally it's close. I mean, I've read your script and I'm reading it and it reads similar to the tone of Batman, but it goes in a way different direction.
I
And
wrote
you're
that I wrote that script having absolutely no familiarity with Batman.
Yeah, I think it just I think it's just it's just good writing is what it is. And the way you describe the city of it, you know, it's engorging the alleyways around it, and you have these like beautiful descriptions of it swallowing the city itself. I mean, it paints that kind of gothic nature that you expect from like a type of a metropolis like that. So
It really is an otherworld city, because being from Michigan, you know
yeah.
that this has nothing to do with what Detroit looks like.
No, but I mean, you know, you in The Crow, you've got Devil's Night, which was a big problem here. I mean,
That
I
was a
remember,
Detroit thing,
yeah,
yes.
I remember as a kid, we were very scared of Devil's Night. It was a real thing, it finally got under control. But at one point, it was scared into us. Let's put it that way. Devil's Night was a big problem.
Terry Hayes, who did some writing on The Crow, ancillary writing on The Crow, wrote a whole script about Devil's Night that was never produced. And
Oh,
it may very well have been that that was one of the things that when Terry was going to work on The Crow, that crossed our desk, and that may very well have been where the idea to include Devil's Night was from.
well, that's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, let's talk about how you got the gig for The Crow, and specifically, what were the adaptations that you had to make for The Crow from the graphic novel or comic book series itself?
Well, that's a complicated path, and it's like the way that people ask, how did you get the gig to do that movie? And the short answer to that one is that after Leatherface, and I wrote a couple of Critters sequels for New Line, and I was
Really?
doing, yeah, 3 and 4, they're both mine.
That's awesome.
We shot them back to back in a supermarket on Pico Boulevard in Hollywood. There were still props from Suburban Commando, the Hulk Hogan movie, in the background.
Wow.
But we had, see, in Leatherface, we got Viggo Mortensen before he was Viggo.
Oh, really?
And Critters 3 was Leonardo DiCaprio's first feature film. He was like 12, you know, or something like that.
That's fantastic.
We had Angela Bassett in Critters 4. You know, I mean, it was.
Look at the talent that they have watched,
We're the
man.
star makers. We
Yeah.
had Angela Bassett and Brad Dourif, believe it or not.
Wow.
And so I got called to do, as Penelope Spheris wanted to do a movie called Deadly Metal.
Okay.
Which was about a heavy metal band that eats its groupies, you know, basically.
That's an interesting concept. All right.
That led to a really interesting meeting that didn't evolve into anything, although Penelope was wonderful. And the producer who called that meeting wound up changing positions, and he was working for Ed Pressman at the time. And when Alex decided they wanted another writer on The Crow, Cotty Chubb, who was working at Ed Pressman, remembered me from the Deadly Metal meeting, and he called me and he goes, "Do you think you'd be interested in this?" And I had no familiarity with the comic book.
Yeah.
I had never seen it before. I didn't know O'Barr. I surely didn't know him as well as I know him now.
Right.
And we went in, and there commenced probably about a year and a half of working on that screenplay.
Wow.
After draft after draft after draft in LA, and then finally in Wilmington, North Carolina, 3 months before production started. We're all holed up there writing a draft a day, you know, basically.
Wow, really trying to figure this script out.
Well, because the way that it wound up was that Alex and I were sharing a house. Proyas and I were sharing a house in Wilmington. He was upstairs and I was downstairs, and in the evenings, during pre-production, we would literally sit on opposite sides of a room with our backs to each other, typing away on PowerBook 140s.
Wow.
At the time, and then he'd hand me what he had, and then I'd rewrite it. I'd hand it back, and he'd rewrite it, and we were doing that all through production. In fact, when we were shooting, it was virtually all night shoots, and so about 2 o'clock in the morning was lunch, and at lunch I got 10 minutes with Alex, like in his trailer, to find out what I was going to spend the next 24 hours doing. And so did Peter Pound, our storyboard guy. He and I would go in together, and we'd sit there with Alex at lunch, and we'd find out what our next day was going to be full of.
This is during production?
Yes.
So while they're shooting?
Yes.
Oh, I see. So Alex didn't have a completed script before he went into shooting.
Well, we didn't have a completed comic either, Jeff.
I did not know that.
The comic wasn't finished. When we started writing the script, and even up through production, James Labar had only finished 3 issues of the comic. We had a set of incomplete pencils.
Oh my gosh,
the last
I had no idea.
2 parts, and we literally kind of had to dope out for ourselves how it was going to end, because well, okay, he comes back from the dead, and he shoots a lot of heroin. He plays the guitar, he kills some guys, shoots some more heroin, plays the guitar, kills some more guys, and he kills some guys, and then he shoots some heroin.
That's your beat. That's your beat sheet.
Yeah, basically. And how long has it been since he killed some guys? Okay, let's go back. So your primary things are, reduce the number of bad guys, because in the comic, like 7 people come out of that car. I forget.
Okay, all right.
It's a lot of people come out of the car, and it says we gotta reduce the number of bad guys and focus on how we're going to eliminate them. And in the course of that, try to do something that's something other than Death Wish of the Living Dead.
Right.
And that's where Brandon comes in, because Brandon contributed to the script.
Really?
Alex contributed to the script. Brandon said, we originally had an Asian bad guy, and Brandon said, no way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we said, you're right. Because we were just kind of following the magnetism of what like mystic weirdness was be.
Right. The Bai Ling character.
Yeah, and it's like there's an echo of that in Bai Ling.
Yeah.
But now we've recast her, so it's actually kind of funny. It's like well when Wincott says, "Oh, she's my sister."
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. It works though, and one thing. Speaking of Brandon, I thought, because I rewatched it recently. I mean, I loved that film as a kid. I can admit that I definitely dressed up as the Crow for Halloween. Not gonna lie.
So did my nephew.
Yeah. So watching again recently, it holds up. It holds up, David. That is a solid story. The script is good. The effects hold up, and it's not dated, but Brandon brought levity to the role, which I didn't realize as a kid. But there's a couple of scenes where the cops is like, freeze, don't move, and he shuffles away, kind of like a vaudevillian.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all him.
Yeah, brilliant.
That's all him in the moment, because the script doesn't say bounce away like a puppet. It's like, oh, that's Brandon.
Yeah. He brought some extra cool depth to the role. So I did not realize that you didn't have a completed story to work off during the shooting. That's absolutely impressive that you're able to weave everything together.
The charter with a lot of adaptations, and not just comic books, but novels and everything, is usually you would like to capture the spirit of the original material, not necessarily transpose it beat for beat.
Right.
I mean, we had people that were pissed off at the movie because we didn't replicate one panel from the comic. I mean, literally. Well, my favorite panel, and you didn't do it, so your whole movie sucks.
Yeah, well, there's movies that do that, and the movie's terrible.
Yeah.
So I mean, whatever. You can't please everybody.
There's a line. There's a fine line when it comes to fan service.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to remember, it's like, if we don't make anything any good, it's not going to last, and nobody's going to want to watch it.
Right.